You to turn to Matthew chapter 6. Wow, you came back. I can't believe it. Well, I didn't really lay this out for you this morning like I normally do or should do or give you insight. But we're looking at Matthew chapter 6, verse 25 and following. And this morning the intent was to give you the context of the passage. You cannot reach into Matthew chapter 6, verse 25. Just grab a hold of it and pull it out and do what you want to with it. You've got to see it in the flow, which we tried to present to you in terms of the one thing. So Jesus is just saying one thing, and this has to be interpreted, of course, in light of that one thing. And now, tonight and tomorrow night, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we want to begin to work on this passage step by step and walk through this thing together. And he adds to it as he goes along. And so we're going to try to see those additional truths as he just takes us step by step through what he wants to say in this passage. If you would like to read this in your devotional time, maybe when you get up in the morning, you can read chapter 6, verse 25 and following. And maybe I'll speak to you and give you some great insight. And then you can come and tell me what he said, and then I'll preach it across the country, and people think I'm great. So that's the plan. That's the plan. So we're not going to read the whole passage like we did this morning, but thank you for your patience with me. But we're going to look at verse 25 and 26. He says, "Therefore I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is life not more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air, for they neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they?" It's interesting that the passage, as we mentioned this morning, begins with the word therefore. In fact, if you look just at this chapter, not the whole book or not the whole sermon, not the whole Sermon on the Mount, but just this chapter, you will note that the word therefore shows up 6 times. If you get bored with this sermon, you can count them up. But it shows up 6 times. It's interesting that the other 5 times, not this time, not verse 25, but the other 5 times is the Greek word un, O-U-N, and it's translated therefore, which is proper. But when you come to verse 25, it's not un. He changes words on us. In fact, it's not one word, it's 2 words, which means that this therefore is beefed up. It's therefore on steroids. I mean, it's really beefed up. In other words, he's yelling at you by this point. So this is an attempt to say, therefore, hey, get this. I want you to understand what I'm saying to you. This is important. And of course, you know that therefore means what he's going to explain to us, what he's going to say to us is based upon what he's already said to us. Now, we're not going to go back to the beginning of the sermon, which would be the total context as we dealt with this morning. But if you go to the immediate context is in this verse 19 and following. And we touched on it this morning, but I want to walk you through it again just to be sure it's in your mind as we move into this. He gives us 3 illustrations. In other words, he's dealing in chapter 6 with the idea of religion. He's saying, let's take this one thing, which is the merger, the one thing, which is my helplessness and his overwhelming resource, literally brought together. I'm poor in spirit. In the spiritual realm, I'm absolutely poverty-stricken. He wants to come and literally merge with me, not touch me, not counsel me, not give me advice, not tell me what to do and I'll go do it. See, that's all in the Old Testament. You understand in the Old Testament, God's over there, I'm over here, he's telling me what to do, and I'm saying, hey, I'm working on it. I'm doing the best I can. I don't look so close. I'm really doing the best I can on this thing. But he's over there, I'm over here, and he's telling me what to do. Now, when you come to this, what Jesus is presenting and what the new covenant is all about is he's not over there anymore, he's in here. But note this, he's not in here like he was over there. See, when he was over there, he told me what to do. He's not just changed locations and still telling me what to do. See, when he was over there, he was telling me what to do. Now he's coming here. But folks, if he came in here and he's just telling me what to do, then he might as well stayed over there. For frankly, I don't need somebody to tell me what to do. I'm married. I don't need someone to tell me what to do. See, I already got that one down. What I need is somebody to get inside of me and empower me. What I need is somebody not to tell me what to do, but to do it. Which is what he's talking about here. That I'm absolutely helpless. He is coming and he's not going to tell me what to do. In fact, I wish he would tell me what to do. I've begged him to tell me what to do. When I was a kid, I got a piece of paper, put it on my nightstand with a pencil, got down on my knees before I went to bed and said, Lord, write it on the paper. I'll do it. Just write it on the paper. He never did. I mean, it's the handwriting on the wall. It would be easy for him to do, but he never did. Because this is a whole new ball game, folks. He's not over there telling me what to do. He's not come in here to tell me what to do. Well, what's he doing in here? He's literally doing it. And I'm responding to him and allowing him to accomplish what he wants to do. And he's doing stuff through you and in you that you don't even have any idea about because it's none of your business. See, you and him are together in this, and he's literally acting in and through you in ways you have no idea about. Now, it's really interesting in the New Testament, after the crucifixion, you're never told to follow Jesus. This will ruin a lot of good songs. You're never told to follow Jesus. See, in the Old Testament, you could follow him. I came to Moses and say, I want to follow God. He said, that's easy. Looks out the window, looks like he's going east. Wow, pillar of cloud by day, pillar of fire by night. You can know he's going. And when you go to McDonald's to get coffee, instead of following him, you know you're not following because he's over there and you're going there. But see, in the New Testament, he's not out there, he's in here. So I can't follow him. Well, what's he doing? He's picking your foot up and putting it down, picking your foot up and putting it down. Well, where are you going? None of your business. But after you've done that for about 10 years, you turn around and say, whoa, what a plan. Whoa. What a plan. So this is about merger, folks, which is the premise of the whole thing. So he comes in this passage and say, therefore, and that's based upon, now he's applying it to religion. And he's brought up the idea of charitable deeds, he's brought up the idea of prayer, and he's brought up the idea of fasting, which is spiritual discipline. And he's done all of that in chapter 6. And when he gets done with that, he moves us into, I want to give you 3 illustrations to focus you, to pull this together for you so you understand what I'm talking about. The first illustration is in verse 19, which we talked about again this morning. Do not lay up for yourselves. And I suggested to you that do not lay up, which in your translation may be do not store up, is actually the Greek word treasure in verb form. So he says treasures in heaven, treasures in earth, and then he turns it into verb form, treasures in heaven. Do not treasure treasures on earth. So note it's in heaven and it's on earth. That's a unique study in itself. See, it's in heaven and on earth. And heaven is not a place to go to when you die and streets of gold. He's not talking about that. He's talking about this spiritual realm. He's talking about that you are poor in spirit, which is the inside mystical, hidden, can't measure it, can't go to Dollar General and buy it. It's this attitude, it's this who you really are, it's character, it's all of this that you can't put your finger on, you can't grab a hold of it, and when you die, it somehow disappears from the flesh. Whatever that is, he wants to merge with you in that. And what you are to do is you are to treasure, ache. In fact, he says at the end of verse 21, which is the end of this illustration, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So what you crave, what you desire, what you want more than anything else, what's on the top of your bucket list, what's the desire of your heart, what are you after, what is the beat of your heart, what is it, the one thing you just got to have? Yeah, there's other stuff that we got to do. There's the physical we have to take care of. We understand all that. But what is this treasure? What is this thing you really want in your life? He says, let it be this intimacy with me. Let it be this oneness with me. Let it be me. Would you just go after me, please? Would you abandon yourself to me, please? Would you just give your whole self to me, please? And would you just let me work in your life with all the divine destiny and plan that I've got? Would you please go after that one? If you just abandon, you don't have to do anything. Just give yourself to me in that way, and whoo, I'll work it all out for you. Now he moves us to the second illustration, which says the same identical thing. Only he says the lamp of the body is the eye. And again, this morning we said that that's not true. The lamp is what gives light. The eye doesn't give any light. It's a window through which the light comes into the life. It's imagery. And he goes on to say, therefore, if your eye is good, and the idea of good there is literally singular. So if your eye is singular, which is the idea of I look this way, this eye looks this way, this eye looks this way, and that's really hard on this thing because I run into stuff. Bring those two together and focus. This is a focus idea. This is go after. This is treasure, focus. See, it's the same idea. So he's only saying one thing. And then he lays it out clearly. No one can serve two masters. Well, what's the two choices you have? You cannot serve God and mammon. You cannot. You can't serve both. And those are the only two choices you have. Mammon is the physical realm of your life. Don't let that dominate. Don't go after that. Don't let that be superior. Don't let that literally be the focus of your life. Go after me. Go after the spiritual realm. Go after intimacy. Go abandon yourself to this, that spiritual realm of your life. Don't be empty there. Know the resource of God filling you in the spiritual realm. Go after that. So he's given 3 illustrations on this thing. Therefore, since those 3 things are true, therefore, since those 3 illustrations that say one thing are true, since this now is your focus, since this is what you're after, since this spiritual realm of intimacy with me is the beat of your heart, therefore, do not worry about your life. What you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, nor about your body, what you're going to put on. Now, again, he's not proposing to you. Want to make it clear, that's not a rule. Every time you're concerned, you sinned. He's not saying that. This is not a rule because we all have concerns. We get that. Hey, I'm concerned about my kids. I'm concerned about the church. I'm concerned about Israel. I'm concerned about we're bordering line on war. I'm concerned about a lot of things. I have concerns. Well, naturally. Well, if he's not saying do not have concerns, what is he saying? He explains it in the question. For he follows this great statement with a question. What's the question? Is not life more than food? Now, any logical person will look at that and say, well, amen, brother. Yes, there's the physical, I get that, but there's something more going on than just the physical. And you know that in your life. See, I desire things, yes, and physical things, and I get them, but it doesn't satisfy the more. See, there's something going on more. He says it's this more category, which is imagery for this premise. That there's this spiritual realm of your life. And listen, put walls around that. Listen, guard that. Come on, get after that, will you? If you'll spend your life just working like a dog to get physical stuff, what would you do for that which is more? If you would get mad down at your job because somebody, and you have seen, You have seniority. Somebody gets promoted and you don't, and you get upset about that physical thing. What would you do about the more? Go after the more, will you? This intimate relationship, this more, this mystical, unseen, this spiritual realm. Come on, go after that. Build that. Pour into that. Treasure that. Go after him. Let me be intimate with you in that. Let me form the new creature with you in that. Your helplessness, my overwhelming resource. Let me come together with you in that. Go after the more. Now, when he gets done with that, he moves you to verse 26 that we want to focus on tonight. Look! Now, the word look is really significant there in the fact that it's imblepo is the Greek word, imblepo. Blepo means to look, see. It's the opposite of blind. Blepo. But it's not just blepo, it's imblepo, which means it has a prefix on it. And in does two things for the word. It again beefs it up. So this is a strong look. This is a stare. This is get your nose in it. I mean, get your eyeballs focused. I mean, lean forward and stare. Don't blink. It's that kind of a deal. And in the scriptures, into is a movement term. You go into, that's a relocation. From is a movement term. That's a relocation. But in is fixed. I'm not going in. I'm not coming out. I'm fixed. This is stationary. This is the abiding concept in the vine and branch thing. Abide in me. So it's the abiding concept. So that's attached to the stare. So he says, I want you to stare and don't quit staring. In stare. In fact, he adds the word you'll note, which is translated in verse 6:26. Look at. And at is literally the word ace, which is into. So stare with everything you've got fixed. Fix your eyes into, which is a forward movement. So literally lean into. So this is really strong. Now, what am I to lean into? He says, look at the birds. Oh, we're going bird watching. No, we're not. That's not what he's saying. Well, what's he saying? Look at the birds of the air. They don't sow, they don't reap, nor gather into barns. Yet your heavenly Father feeds them. So stare, not at birds, stare, don't blink, stare at not just birds, but the relationship, the focus of God upon birds. Focus on that. Think that through, will you, he says. Calculate that in your head. In fact, in another place, he says, birds are cheap. He says a sparrow, you can buy 2 of them for a penny. In fact, sometimes you come to buy birds from me, and you give me a penny, and I give you 2, and I just throw another one in for the fun of it. That's how cheap they are. So you can buy a bird for 1/2 cent. Because a bird is here and then gone. A bird doesn't exist very long. A bird has no eternal value. A bird doesn't live forever. A bird is just, it isn't made in the image of God. A bird, come on, a bird. And do you understand that God takes his entire focus? I mean, all of his energy, all of his concern, all of the focus of God is on some dumb bird. Think of it. And not one single bird falls. That God isn't aware of it. Think about that. Stare at that. Give your whole focus to that. Think that through, will you? A cheap, non-existent, isn't going to last forever kind of thing. A bird, here, gone, pay no attention, they're everywhere. Buy one for 1/2 cent. And yet God takes his entire focus and focuses it on what one bird falls. without God's awareness. Think about that. Okay, now I've thought about it. What of it? Oh, he explains it with a question. See his pattern? Makes a statement, gives a question. Makes a statement, gives a question. What's the question in this case? He says, are you not of more, there it is again, more value than they? Now he's taken the more category, which remember is imagery for this spiritual realm. Isn't life more than physical? Isn't life more than food? There's this category of your spiritual life, that which is going to last forever. Who you really are, your spiritual realm, that realm. Focus on that. Now that you focus on that, let's look at the birds. God cares for them, okay? Are you not of more, let's add to this category, more value? You're going to live forever. Well, I'm a Baptist. Baptists live forever. Well, I'm Church of Christ. Meant somebody earlier. Hey, you're going to live forever. Nazarenes are going to live forever. Sinners are going to live forever. Non-sinners are going to live forever. Christians are going to live forever. Do you realize everybody lives forever? Not a bird. You're made in his image. Do you realize that for 6 days God created, according to Genesis? He got up one morning, as it were, and spoke. And it was. Said, that's enough for today. Next morning he got up. It was. Did that 5 days. On the 6th day, you know what he did? He got off his throne and got down and dirty. Got down and dirty. Dug his hands into the mud and formed you. You got his fingerprints on you. He handled you. Didn't do that to anything else. He handled you. And then he gave you your first kiss and breathed into you the breath of life. You've been kissed by God. And you became a living being with destiny and uniqueness out of the dreams of God. One of the things we're going to stress in the Bible study, by the way, we're going to study Acts chapter 1, is this idea that God didn't create you and then come up with a plan. God had this overwhelming plan and created you to match his plan. Do you realize the significance of that? See, God didn't create you and say, oh, yeah, I forgot all about you, man. I'm sorry. Listen, I got to keep you busy. Dig a hole, fill it in. Dig a hole, fill it in. Dig a hole, fill it in. That'll take care of you. Back to what I was doing. He didn't do that. He had this overwhelming dream. And right here in his dream, there was a hole. And he measured it, went to his workshop and said, I got to plug that hole. And created you. And you literally were born out of the dreams of God. Consider the bird, not made in his image, with no eternal destiny and no real significance except just the wonder of God's mind. And here you are, made in his image, eternal destiny, fulfillment of his dream and his plan. Are you not of more value? So where do you find your value? You find your value here. In the more. Here's where you find your identity. Here's where you find out who you are. It's in here, in the relationship, in the intimacy with his presence. Here's where you find your destiny. Here's where you find your significance. Here's where you find your worth. Here's where you find your security. Here's where you find who you are. Here. in the more category. Let me try to explain this to you. Isn't that hard? Okay, back to the premise. I'm absolutely helpless. Blessed are the poor in spirit. I'm absolutely helpless. No resource whatsoever. That's the premise. I'm absolutely helpless. But I'm not helpless in the physical. In the physical realm, I have abilities. I can get things done. I can accomplish stuff. I can make money. I can buy a car. I can fix. I can do this. I can do that. I can take a baseball. I can take a bat and hit a baseball over the fence and collect $1 million. See, I got abilities. See, I'm not helpless in the physical. I'm helpless in the more category, in the spiritual realm, in my attitude. Yeah, I can have $1 million contract in athletics, but man, I can't handle my body drives. And I can't get along with my wife. Because I'm helpless in this area. I'm really good in this area, but not this area. Well, why is that true? Because I need him. See, helpless in the spiritual realm, he wants to come and merge with me in the spiritual realm and be my resource. And when I merge with him, get this, when I merge with him in the spiritual realm, what happens? He begins to demonstrate that in my physical life. Suddenly, my whole physical life begins to be transformed. And he becomes the demonstration. This becomes the demonstration. So this was built to be a stage for this. So in this intimacy of relationship, this is acted out in my physical life. Okay. Since I'm helpless, he wants to come and fill me in the spiritual realm. What if I don't let him fill me in the spiritual realm? Then I'm helpless. But I can't stand that. So I got to have resource. Where am I going to get what? Where is there any resource available to me? Well, again, I'm not helpless in the physical. So I begin to take the physical and feed the spiritual. For instance, I need peace. I know. In my spiritual inward being, I'm just stressed out. I know. Life is just low. I gotta have some peace. I just can't stand the stress and I'm all upset and life is falling apart. What am I gonna do? I turn to the only resource I got. I get drunk. I got peace for an evening. Feel really good. Now I'm an alcoholic. In the spiritual realm, I'm all mad. I'm just all upset. You tick me off and you just take advantage of me and life isn't fair and you shouldn't have had it and you didn't have any right to do that. And well, if I don't have him, what am I going to do? I'm going to sock you in the mouth, man. Now, you know I'm not making this up. Wilson County Jail, where I'm chaplain, I was standing in the hallway and they were dragging this guy, about 4 guards are dragging this guy down the hallway, taking him to solitary. And all the way down the hall he said, well, he'd hit a guy. Well, shouldn't have said that about my mother. Whoa. What? I'm an adolescent. I'm trying to find out who I am. Am I a boy or a girl? I don't know. Do you see my identity, my value is all found in relationship with him? And if I don't have that, I'm on pills, man. I'm sucking you in the mouth, brother. I'm never going to talk to you again. I write you off my list. Well, it's the only way I have to handle it because I have no. That's backwards, folks. I'm to find intimacy with Him, merger with Him in the spiritual realm. He becomes my resource, and that begins to play itself out in my not. Now, Jesus says, let's apply that to religion. Oh, brother. See, I like to talk about alcoholics. He says, let's apply it to preachers and religion. In Nashville, we have what is called the Towers, which is a Nazarene assisted living thing. The Towers. I met this woman by the name of Elizabeth. Oh, what a person. She, of course, lost her husband in several years and is elderly, and she's in assisted living. And if you would know her background, she was a missionary. And you understand missionaries are next to God. You do know that, don't you? Missionaries are next to God. You understand the hierarchy of the church? See, there's God, and then there's missionaries, and then there's general superintendents. And then there's DSs, and then there's pastors, and then there's laymen, and then there's roadkill, and then there's evangelists. So you got to keep the hierarchy straight. So she's next to God. This woman is next to God. I mean, whoa, a saint, you know. When she and her husband were younger, as they started their ministry, they took their own money. Think about this. Took their own money and bought a tent, a large tent. And they would go into a small town, and they would get permission and set up the tent, and they would start having services. Nobody'd be there, but they'd sing and preach like somebody was there. And they just kept doing that until somebody showed up. And over a period of months, they'd gather a congregation. 30 or 40 would get saved. They had Bible studies and services, and then they'd call the DS and say, we need a pastor down here. We got a church. And they'd send a pastor down, pack up the tent, off to another tent. They planted churches all over the place. I mean, this is whoa. I feel like getting on my knees when I go into the room where she is. I visit her one day, and she's weeping. And I'm trying to console her and find out what's the problem, what's going on. And you know what she said to me? She said, I don't think I'm saved. I said, what? Yeah, I don't think if I die, I'd go to heaven. I said, what? You got to be kidding me. This is a godly woman. This is a saint. What? And she's just weeping. I spent a couple hours with her trying to walk through this. What is you know what I found out? All of these years, her warm fuzzies, her spiritual security, her everything's okay, was based on her spiritual church work. Planting churches, missionary, woo, I know I'm okay. Now she's old. And somehow, this is serious, somehow in the midst of that, she'd missed him. My value is not found in my preaching. It's found in him. My value is not found in my teaching. It's found in him. My value is not found in how much money I give to the... It's him. And I'm wondering, ladies and gentlemen, calm down, Manley. I'm wondering, ladies and gentlemen, if we have generated an entire generation of people who know a lot about, and they have memories of what they've done and the service they've rendered, but somehow in the midst of it, all they've got is tradition and what they did and how it, but they didn't get... The other end of this thing, young man kneeling in an altar of prayer, weeping his eyes out, and I'm going down and praying with him, and I say, what's the deal, man? He said, my life is over. I said, what? Yeah, my life is over. Man, you're only 22. What are you talking about? My life is over. I said, what's going on? He said, I had a full ride at the college, football scholarship, tore both tendons in both of my knees, both of my ankles. My life is over. What are you talking about? Your identity, your value, your significance is not here in the physical. Here's where you find your worth. Here's where you find your security. Here's where you find your value. Here's where you find your identity. Here's where you find who you are. Here, and that plays itself out in the physical realm. That's right. But it isn't about, it's about... He says, ladies and gentlemen, go after the more. Ladies and gentlemen, treasure the more. Ladies and gentlemen, bring your eyes together, focus on the more. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't serve two masters. Here, get into this. Give your life to him. Become intimate with him. You got to know him. Oh, he and you have got together until you have this. Oh, you're a new creature in him. Go after that. And when you got that, oh, you find your value. You find your identity. You find your significance, because your significance is in him, not what you do. Not in your charitable deeds, not in your prayer life, not in your fasting. It's him. I'm sorry, Jesus. I didn't go get drunk. But I allowed ministry, the activity of preaching, to bring the pat on my back, the warm feeling that I have value and I'm worth something. So I've been a churchy alcoholic. Because my value did not come from you. Came from what I did. I'm sorry. I repent, oh God, I repent. And I want to clear the air tonight in my own spiritual life. That I want my only destiny. I want my only value. I want my security. I want the only thing that matters to be the intimacy between you and me, Jesus. I come in my helplessness because, Lord, it makes sense. You see, if I'm helpless, what good would my church work be? If I'm helpless, what good would my preaching be? What good would any ideas that I have be if I'm absolutely helpless? The only chance I've got is you, so my value is found in you. My significance is found in you. Everything is found in you. I want to be intimate with you. And the problem tonight is, Lord, I don't know you as well as I want to. I feel like a kindergarten, God. I feel like I'm in kindergarten, that I just got started in just knowing you. Would you grab a hold of me tonight? Would you just pull me into your throbbing heart? Would you just wrap both of your arms around me and squeeze me until my ribs break? Would you take me to a new level of intimacy and oneness with you? God, this is not just about my name's written down and I'm going to heaven when I die because I'm forgiven. This is not just about that. This is about you and me, Jesus. And finding my value and my significance and knowing you. So, Lord, I'm kneeling tonight again. I know I was there this morning, Lord, but I'm coming back again. And I'm seeking you with my whole heart, and I'm saying, God, take me beyond my religious work and take me beyond until you really are the only thing that really matters in my life. And I find my identity and I find my value and I find who I am. In you. Heads are bowed. I don't mean to take your time, but I've got to pray. And you're invited as well. Maybe you don't have any problem, and maybe you've made it where you need to be, but I got a feeling I could get closer. And maybe you're struggling in your own value and your own identity. And wouldn't it be awful if all you've got is some nice memories of what you've done in the church in the past and your whole spiritual security is wrapped up in that? And the wonder of His presence and the glory of His fellowship and the strength of His divine flow. And are you satisfied with what you got? So, hey, there's no pressure. And it's just an opportunity. And again, not intimidation, just invitation. So I'm inviting you to seek with me as we go after Him together. Be obedient.